So there is somebody. This is an exclusive.
Yay.
It was very smart to ask this question.
So how are you feeling about watching the first few episodes back? Is there anything that has really surprised you so far?
It's definitely cathartic. It's not necessarily what I want to be doing right now, but at the same time, I mean, just because it is really brutal to relive, like the demise of my marriage and really seeing how much I was trying to fight for it when I should have clued up a little bit more quickly. But it's a beautiful process to see it organically play out. And it's a nice little reminder of like just the, how determined we can be and like the strength of the woman's soul, man. Men and women alike. But
is it a nice reminder to see kind of how far you've come? Because I'm sure, obviously this was filmed months ago, so I'm sure you're in a much different place than you were back then. So is it nice or is it hard in a way? I'm sure it's a little bit of both.
It's amazing to see. I mean, like I'm like kind of in shock of who I used to be. So just a few months ago, and not just with my husband's departure, but also seeing where I was at in my process of accepting my son's diagnostic for autism. And, so I was a little bit more naive, I think, as well. A little bit more of a kept house cat.
Yeah. What would you say that
all of that is coming out?
Yeah. What would you say that you've learned about yourself the most in these past few months?
I am a tough woman, man. I could really endure a lot. But not only that, like finding my voice. It's one thing to endure, but it's another thing to thrive and to just get into a headspace where you're like, I am determined to do better and be better. It might have taken 10 hours worth of therapy every week, but I am happy to report I'm in a much better and happier place. And the journey's never done, but I can't believe what I just survived.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that is so true. And I mean, you're going through the demise of your marriage, but you're also kind of thrust into this new friend group as well. So what was kind of that like, kind of going through what you were doing personally and then trying to fit in with these new group of women and trying to navigate those friendships?
It really was a godsend, to tell you the truth. It got me out of the house, but for this friend group, but for, the need to just want to go out and not disappoint and not, there were always fun events. You knew that you were going to see some familiar faces. You knew that you were going to be in a safe place most of the time, where it just got me out of the house. It got me out of bed with my tissue box and my bottle of rosé. So that's always going to be a plus, especially for those first couple weeks to months of divorce.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, talk a little bit about the divorce. I mean, when did you first notice that things were going wrong in your marriage, or did you have no idea that things were going wrong in your marriage?
We like to call our marriage perfect by any stretch you need to have a grand imagination. We've endured a lot in our relationship. And so when I found out about financial issues going on, it didn't occur to me that this would break us. Like we dealt with like infidelity, like we dealt with like big ticket items, where I had to really learn to forgive. And we really needed to go to a lot of therapy and really learn how to communicate and reconnect. So financial issues were the least of my concerns. So it really did. I was completely blindsided when he filed. So, but in some way it must mean that it was so bad that maybe he didn't want to tell me. Mm-hmm. There's even maybe a part of me that thinks maybe he's trying to protect me. I don't know. I can only guess, but I'm relieved to just not have to have this occupy my mind anymore.
Right. I mean, like, what is the status? Because obviously, there's he said, she said in the press, there's statements being made and,
social media.
Right.
It ain't fun.
It ain't
Christmas
fun.
Eve, nothing better to do than just blast your ex.
I mean, what's kind of like the status of your relationship status right now? Obviously, do you have any sort of communication, or is it just through social media, through lawyers and things like that?
Yeah, we were communicating somewhat nicely to the point where we pretty much negotiated our own settlement, like just those little fine details that weren't discussed in mediation. And it felt like we were going well. And then he really aggressively kept going forward with the divorce in Puerto Rico, which was not necessarily the plan. That was all supposed to be wrapped up in the settlement. So then we had to take a back step from that. So I no longer felt like I could trust talking to him or communicating with him. I'd still send him pictures of our son. I'd still encourage him to come visit our son. But besides that, like, trust was once again broken. Like, how many times can you say that before sounding like a crazy person? So yeah, sadly, we've not really had a good rapport back and forth, just because it doesn't behoove me, it doesn't benefit me whatsoever. Every time I've tried to give him a heads up or be there for him, he's used it against me. At this point, we have a settlement. We both have ironed out all the details. Like, it's ready to go. We just need to sign. I'm ready to sign, and he's just not doing it. So here we are. I'm hoping that eventually, maybe doing things like this will get through to him that let's just focus on co-parenting. Let's just finish this so we could just be done and put this in our rear view and just heal.
Yeah. Why do you think he's kind of dragging his feet about it? Is he hoping for reconciliation in a way?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, you take those words back. You don't even put that out there to the universe. No. Ego? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Obviously, I don't know what's in this man's head since 5 months ago, going on 6 months. So I couldn't tell you, but I think it's more ego related than matters of the heart.
Right. Do you feel like you have a reason why this all happened? Do you feel like you have that?
I do. I do. Yeah, and it's not something I'm putting out there because it's all guessing anyway, and let's not all get sued here.
No, totally. No, I just want to I feel like, or you feel like you have closure then? There still is, it's a guesstimation, but I don't really, at this point, I really don't need closure. Okay. To relive, talk about a beautiful time capsule of closure is reliving his treatment of me, who was very dedicated, very dutiful, very committed. Like, I lived for that man. And to see the way he's treated me and our son and my family is like, I don't need anything from him. I don't need any words. I don't need any statements. I don't need to even know what the heck really just happened there. Yeah. I just need to love on myself and move on. Definitely. How is your son doing?
Heaven. No, he's absolute heaven. He's signing like a crazy machine right now. He's got mama down. He's like, thank you, please. Like, he's just awesome. We're starting to get a little bit more verbiage, wah, wah, wah. Like, for monkeys, he'll go, ooh, ah. For I'll put the Santa Claus hat on. He's like, oh, oh, oh. So he's connecting to things in ways that my brain doesn't wrap around. And I find so fascinating and so amazing. So we're thrilled. He's got a lot of love around him. So good.
We're all happy. It definitely seems like it. I'm sure he really has no idea what's kind of going on. Like, do you have to ever explain what's going on to him? Does he have kind of understand that? Or is it, kind of better off that he doesn't really know what's going on, I guess.
Right. That's the beauty. Yeah. That's the beauty of spectrum kiddos is they are perfectly happy and joyful and intact and in love with their brains and in love with the world around them. Fortunately, he doesn't, I think, his sensory issues are getting so much better with occupational therapy. So the things about spatial, concerns are becoming less and less. But he's like, what's the big fuss about? Like, I'm crying in the parking lot because he couldn't go to a normal, neurotypical school. And he's just like, why is she crying? Peel me this orange. Like, give me a juice box, woman. So he's totally my inspiration to just buck up and keep going. And why am I crying? He's not. So it's just finding the right place for him and truly just getting rid of that shame that you feel that's attached to this word. It's a freaking word. It's a medical diagnostic. It doesn't define who your child is, and it surely doesn't define what their future is going to be. So true. So it's it's letting go of that and just holding on tighter to him.
Good. It seems like he's thriving, which is great. I love that. I love to hear it. Has your ex had any communication with your son? Has he seen him in these past few months?
He's not seen him. He's asked like a handful of times, like, okay, I'd like to see him. I'm like, great, that's wonderful. What time? And then he'd flake. He did do one FaceTime on Thanksgiving for like 4 or 5 minutes. You know, who's counting? Dinner bags. But he did do a FaceTime then, and I won't tell you my son's reaction. And that's it. So it's just sad because I do know that James, I mean, we tried for 3 years to have our son, and James endured a lot of things as well in order to be able to conceive or to be able to, for us to make embryos. Yeah. So you don't do that for something that you don't want with all your heart. So I think it's a good, reflection of where he's at mentally right now for it to be this dark.
Right. I mean, that's got to be so heartbreaking to witness too. Cause like you said, you both wanted this for so long, and then to just kind of push it aside is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I try not to carry it. It's just like the autism diagnostic. My son's not crying about it, so we're going to be okay. Yeah. But if we're over a glass of wine, yes, I will put some tears in that Chardonnay. But again, you gotta, I mean, I choose laughter over tears these days, so I try not to think about it too much, but it is very sad.
No, totally. And like, I mean, last question, I know you spoke out on the show about how, your credit cards were shut off, and he, hasn't paid child support and, therapy for your son. Has that changed at all?
Yes. So no, everything's exactly the same. He cut off my credit cards. Those have not been turned back on. I have access to one singular credit card. It's a number that's through Instacart and Amazon. So, I mean, we're just buying everything we can through Amazon, like stocking up on like a year's worth of diapers, and, we've got like his office in our house now is just turned into like a storage space just to because we don't know. He's never had a conversation with me about it. He could shut it off in any moment. And then I literally would have to look at some serious options. There's been no changes in the finances. He's not paid rent. We're currently squatting in our 10,000 square foot mansion, which is very eerie. And I hate this. I've never gone my life without paying a bill. So to feel like, I'm just constantly apologizing to our property manager, and they're being so amazing and very understanding. But I mean, I understand we have an obligation, and that he's run from them is icky. Yeah. But hopefully with the settlement, I'll be able to be in control of our family's finances. I'm not scared to work. I am not scared of a budget. This is, I'm ready to be able to provide for my family. And I don't really need to, I don't want to ever be in this position ever again to where I'm financially relying on any man. Yeah. So it's I learned a lot.
No, definitely. It's gotta be so frustrating to you too, because here you had spent so many years of your life with this person thinking it's going to be forever, and then to kind of have the rug pulled out from under you. I couldn't imagine what you must be going through. But I mean, like you said, you're kind of being so strong for your son and kind of putting on a brave face, which I think is great.
It's amazing when I go through my DMs, I thought, oh, woe is me, my story is so tragic. And when I'm hearing stories still today, currently, how it's in specific states, especially the divorce laws and the rights that we don't have as mothers and as caregivers, and as putting 20, 30 years into a marriage and being treated as if we are, discardable. But it's truly, I mean, if I can use a platform to shine more of a light on how twisted divorce can be for a stay-at-home mother. And for a housewife. So it's definitely, it's shocking to think that some things that you think would happen in the 50s are still going on today.
Seriously, it's pretty scary. I mean, I know you said that doing the show has been very therapeutic and it's helped you kind of get out and about a little bit. I think he said in one of his statements that he didn't want you to do the show. Do you think if you didn't do the show, your marriage would still be intact? And was it almost a blessing in disguise that the show did happen, since what kind of came about?
I mean, well, the fact checks are the man signed, he flew back to do the home shoot 2 months before we started filming. He signed every release. He signed every release. Once we got the contract, he filled out the contract. He filled out the background check. He was gung-ho for everything. It was only when negative stuff that he had every duty to come and tell me about. Personally, not through production, not through third parties. He should have come to me and said, hey, listen, by the way, this is out there. I could have handled it. I could have 100% handled it. But it was only when like the fire got a little too hot, the heat got a little too hot in the kitchen for him, that now he's trying to rewrite history and say, oh yeah, this was all for her. Keep in mind, I walked into this as an actual housewife. I didn't have a brand. I wasn't there to promote anything. Everything was about his brand. He was very franchisable. It was ultimately, the goal was to have Sweet James in 50 states. So, and that was something we talked about very publicly for 2 years. So he can try and rewrite the record as much as he wants, but the truth is the truth. And that was, he wanted this very much for myself, but very much for himself as well. But for the fans being so smart and super sleuths and putting 2 and 2 together, and him getting being applied pressure, he would have probably loved this experience and still stuck around. But I prefer somebody who's with me for the hard times and able to give me those hard truths when it's not easy than somebody who's just there for the ride.
Definitely. Are you dating again, or do you want to date again?
Jordan, can I be honest?
Of course.
We'll just go. So there is somebody. This is an exclusive.
Yay.
It was very smart to ask this question. So there's somebody that I have known for years. He knew me married and knew my husband. That's not weird at all. But we just have a lot of love and respect for each other. And, we're always kept it where it should be as really good friends. But he was one of those that just constantly checked in on me. Like the moment James left, just like, how are you? Did you need anything? Did the kids need anything? Like one of those. And it's just slowly, it's very, very fresh. So who knows? At the end of the day, I have an amazing friend, but right now we're friends who kiss.
I love it. I love that. I mean, I know it's new, and I think probably filming is wrapped, so we're not going to see this on the show. But are you, obviously, like you said, that you're taking this very slow, but do you want to get married again in the future? Do you want to explore that again?
I love love. So before, even with James, I didn't push marriage. We weren't legally married. We had a ceremony right before I was able to do IVF because I wanted a picture with me in the white dress so my son knew he wasn't a little bastard. But I did want... I didn't really care about that piece of paper. It wasn't, and let's be real, my mother's a very talented Wills of Estate Trust planner. So I had him papered to the gods, his power of attorney, I had his medical directive, I insured him to the gods. So I had everything I needed paper-wise to want to go ahead and build a family with James. So, but the actual marriage document was not something that I really cared about. It wasn't until my son was like 1. And then it started to be like, oh, shoot, like I kind of do want it.
Yeah.
Like for kids, it's just, there's nothing, I don't know. It just makes a family. It makes a family whole. So it's a new feeling for me to have all these romantic connotations with that piece of paper. So long story short, yes, I would very much love, with the right guy or girl, I would really very much love to be married again.
Oh, good. Well, I'm so happy that things are working out. You're beaming. I love it.
Stop it.
I love it. Have any of the ladies met your new significant other?
No, I actually just told Shannon for the first time yesterday. So, I was just, she said, we're just checking in on each other. How's it going? She was talking about John, and I was just like, well.
That's great.
So I know we're like we're like at a 1 month point now. So it's that feeling of like, okay, we can start bringing this outside the house, but kind of just in time for lockdown, right? So maybe we'll just have to.
Definitely. Seriously. Out of all the women, who has been like the most supportive of you through everything? Obviously, we see in this upcoming episode, I think that you and Nicole kind of go out, or you and Jennifer go at it a little bit, right? Yes, you and Jennifer.
Yeah. You're like, which blonde? No, just kidding.
I know. Like, I think last week it was Nicole, this week Jennifer.
Yeah. Get used to it. It just keeps rolling out, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like you're asking who the most supportive, or
or the most supportive, or who kind of surprised you the most and kind of really helping you out through these hard times.
Shannon, hands down. There's no chance in the world that I came into this thinking that Shannon storms the door and I would A, have anything in common, or B, like just bond like we did. It was like it was straight out the gate with her, where it's just like, oh my goodness, you've got like, she's just got this mushy, gushy, juicy, yummy heart. And she just wants to put it on a platter and just, her friends are her everything. And we're very similar in that sense. Mm-hmm. And then we had so much in common with the holistic and with, we have very similar hearts. So that was something that I just instantly, was attracted to and just latched onto, and it's never wavered. So that's the shock of the year, but the best surprise ever.
Seriously. Was it hard to hear the women kind of question your marriage and your relationship and kind of, talk about what was going on?
That was definitely, that's the part of the show that a lot of people say, like, sometimes maybe you just don't want to watch. It's like, oh gosh, I don't want to see this. Like, it makes you feel gross. So, I think the hardest part of last night's episode was watching Gina say to Heather, after I'd given her a heads up, like, just be careful there, that Gina took from that I was jealous of Heather's lifestyle. Mm-hmm. That felt really icky to hear, because it's like, it's my lifestyle too. There's nothing that Heather has that I want. Mm-hmm. I'm just giving you a heads up, like, as a friend, because I really genuinely want you to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are interested in real friendships. Mm-hmm. And I'm sensing something here. My spidey senses are tingling otherwise. So just, heads up. But I get it. We're all getting to know each other. If I met me for the first time, I would be just as confused and just as like, what is up with this hot mess? So we all have to, and I get it. So I did try my best to put one-on-one time with majority of the ladies, and have them ask me every single question and answer every single thing until it's completely answered. Just because my situation was so confusing, and I wanted them to understand that I was coming from a good place and that I was a safe person to like have their children around.
Right, totally. Did you feel like Heather and Jennifer weren't really there or weren't really interested in genuine friendships? Because I know you said, kind of Jennifer was a little thirsty as well. So you felt like they weren't there for the genuine friendships.
Yeah, I mean, I had some track history with Jennifer before, which gave me cause to just be a little, arm's length, more social friend, but I kind of already, we had a track record. I knew that she had said and done some things that didn't really sit well with me. And when I'm in such a vulnerable and open state of mind as I was right when my husband had just left, I didn't trust myself around people who were maybe not there with the best intentions. Mm-hmm. And then sadly with Heather, it's I saw some things and heard some things pretty straight out of the gate with this experience that I was that I shouldn't have seen, and I wish I hadn't seen, because she was somebody that I really looked up to. And it wasn't really until it was being used against me, that I really had to stand up for myself. Yeah. But you'll have to see it all play out. But that was sad. That was really sad. Like the whole process of like, come on, like I just so want to believe in this. Let's just be friends. Let's just be fun. Like I'm going through hell right now. I don't want to fight over nonsense, but I'm not going to be called a liar. Yeah. I'm not going to be, my character brought into question when in my private life, I am fighting for that so desperately. Sure. I wish there could have been like a healthy medium where it didn't have to be all or nothing and scorched earth if you don't think I'm perfect, but it comes down to someone versus me. I choose me. So, and it makes for very entertaining TV for y'all. So.
It does. I'm excited to see it play out. And then, is the sex dungeon still intact?
Sex dungeon is still intact. It's mostly where my gay friends come over to do selfies. It's getting a little dusty down there. But I have gotten, some of my favorite toys have migrated upstairs to my bedside table. So, and I have been asked about the toys. So I'm definitely I think I've got to do a really clever social media post at some point of just how I've taken the big dungeon and just made it into like a little bedside table drawer.
I love it. I love it.